welcome back to Megan Haskell's Book Club. I am your host, Megan Haskell, and today we are going to continue the book Aether Bound with chapter 3. All right. Let's see. There we go. Chapter 3. By the time I got home from the police station, it was already long past dawn. I'd told the cop at the beach that I didn't know anything, and I hadn't been lying. Unfortunately, with all the paperwork, it still took hours to process what had happened and why I'd been there in the first place. Luckily, it was Sunday, which meant the bar was closed and I had a full day off. Sweet relief. I let myself into my tiny studio apartment and locked the door behind me. Beach rents were expensive, and I refused to have a roommate. Between my crazy hours and preference for solitude, it wasn't worth it. Which meant the only thing I could afford within walking or biking distance of the bar was a 400 square foot room with an attached bathroom and a kitchenette stuffed in one corner. It was a nice kitchenette, though. With a grimace, I pulled off my destroyed sneakers and still soggy socks and carefully set them next to the door to avoid bringing sand inside. Maybe when they dried out, I would be able to shake most of it off outside. If I were really lucky, a trip through the washing machine might salvage them. Probably not, though. The blackout curtains were already pulled closed. Thanks to my nocturnal employment, I had sprung for the really expensive ones that were so thick, not even a pinprick of light shone through. I'd even hung them with special squared-off rods so that the curtain pressed up against the wall and the sun couldn't peek in around the edges. The only light that did make it into the apartment came through the small frosted glass window in the bathroom. All I had to do there was shut the door. My eyelids were drooping, my last reserves of energy nearly depleted, but I couldn't get into bed with dirty feet. It was just one of those things. Skirting around my queen-sized bed, I wobbled toward the bathroom, walking on the sides of my feet to keep as much of the sand and dirt from my floor as possible. I stepped into the tub before pulling off my black work pants, knowing the cuffed hems would have hidden pockets of grit that would spill everywhere, then rinsed my feet off. That done, I stumbled back out into the room and fell flat on my face onto the bed. I probably still stank to high heaven with the sweat and alcohol from the bar, but I'd worry about that in the morning, evening, whatever. A pounding on the door woke me minutes later. At least that's what it felt like. Glancing at the clock on the wall that was shaped like the sun, one of the few decorations I'd managed to hang since I'd moved in over a year ago, I realized I'd actually been asleep for 4 hours, and it was nearly the afternoon. It wasn't long enough. I groaned and pulled the fluffy comforter over my head. I splurged on lightweight down. My apartment was my oasis, and I enjoyed cozy things. Big pillows, fuzzy blankets, and high-end coffee. Everything else was secondary. The knocking came again. "Hey, Lil, you in there? I thought we were going for a jog today." It was Ezra, my older brother, who had made it his mission to try to improve my health and fitness. Despite the fact he was wheelchair-bound, he was far more active than I had ever been. In fact, he was training for his 5th paratriathlon, hoping to place for the first time. "Go away," I groaned. "Come on, sis," Ezra shouted. "Wakey, wakey." The yappy dog upstairs started barking at the commotion. Clearly, this building needed better windows, with soundproofing. Knowing Ezra wouldn't leave me alone until I let him in, I dragged myself over to my dresser to pull on a pair of shorts, then opened the door. Ezra pushed his way in on 2 wheels, spinning around in the kitchen nook. I was always impressed that he never knocked anything over. "You look like hell. Rough night?" Ezra asked with a grin. "You wouldn't believe it if I told you." Actually, he probably would. We didn't talk about it much, but he knew I fought my mother's affliction. He knew, and he didn't judge me for it or think I was insane. It was part of why he was so determined to keep me physically grounded. He thought exercise would prevent the demons from taking hold and twisting my mind as they'd done to her. Hot date. He peeked meaningfully toward the closed bathroom door. Should I wheel myself back outside? Ha ha. I rubbed a knuckle in the corner of my eye, trying to get out the sleepy dust and unstick my lids. A woman almost died on the beach last night. I saw the whole thing and got pulled into the police station to give a report. Goddamn cops wouldn't believe that I didn't know anything. Asked me the same 5 questions about 20 times. What happened? Yeah, that was one of them. Ezra rolled his eyes. No, really. It was on the beach near Bird Rock. A guy was trying to drown his date. They'd been kicked out of the Trident just after midnight. And when Bruce and I were leaving after closing up, we saw the police lights. Thing is, I paused, hesitating for just a moment. I worked so hard to seem normal that I hated saying anything to anyone, even him, even when it would be a relief to share what I knew with someone who wouldn't judge me for it. Thing is, I repeated, the guy was possessed, like actually physically possessed by a demon. I've never seen anything like it before. What did you do? There was no judgment in his voice, no doubt of what I said. I couldn't express how much that meant to me. I think I sent it away, or maybe I sent something to help her. I don't know. I'm still processing it all. No wonder you looked wrecked. Right. So can I go back to sleep now? Nope. I have to be home for dinner. Dad's making steak. You still go to Sunday dinners? I hadn't talked to my father in nearly 8 years, not since I'd been let out of the mental hospital where he'd stashed me as a teenager. As soon as he'd realized I could see the demons like my mother, he'd tried to pawn me off as somebody else's problem. Ezra had already been out of the house by that point, off to college to study computer science, but he'd visited me at every opportunity. He'd been the only one who had believed me, the only one I could trust. In large part because I scared off his own demons, and he could feel the difference. Dad had never let me try. The minute I turned 18, I discharged myself from the Institute and never looked back. Yeah, he'd love it if you came. Not a chance. Ezra shrugged. He knew a lost cause when he saw it. We'd been having this argument for years. Well, get dressed. I'll take it easy on you today. I only exercise because you force me to. Yep, which is why you can't skip it. You'd turn into an alcohol-fueled blob in no time. I don't drink that much. Sure. Let's go. End of chapter 3. If you enjoyed that reading, please make sure you like and subscribe. Like the videos, subscribe to my channel. I release a new chapter every Friday, and I look forward to seeing you next week.